let's talk about BeamNG for a second and why for some reason a few people in the community want those physics to be in the next Need for Speed game or in Need for Speed in general. I've seen a few of these comments floating around in different topics across the Need for Speed Reddit and posts like, what would you want to see in the next Need for Speed, or what would make Need for Speed good? The most recent one was a post titled as Perfect Racing Car Game, where an individual recommended Beam physics with Need for Speed driving. So yes, before we have any of those people who have the I haven't seen it so it doesn't exist mindset, go do some research before you comment. Just so we are 100% clear, everyone knows Need for Speed is classified and identifies as an arcade racer, right? We all know this. And if you didn't, now you do. What is defined as an arcade racing game is a subgenre of racing games that emphasizes fun, fast-paced gameplay, and accessibility over realistic driving simulation. These games typically feature exaggerated physics, boost mechanics, simplified vehicle handling, and stunts, environmental stuff like that, right? We're not going to get super deep into that. The focus is on entertainment and spectacle rather than precision or realism. Now keep that in mind as we discuss what BeamNG is. Beam is known for and is widely considered to have the most realistic crash physics in gaming, especially in terms of how deformed the vehicles become after getting hit with whatever, and the soft body simulations. Now, if Need for Speed is an arcade racer that does not focus on realism, why would adding super realistic crashes in an arcade racing game make any logical sense? This would legit kill the game. When you think of Need for Speed, you think of high-speed chases where you are bumping into other racers and trying to spin out cops. If you hit even the smallest car in Beam, your car's front end is shredded and the tires are unusable. How are we supposed to race above 30 miles per hour if every interaction we have in the game would result in an immediate game over, our car being unusable? I feel like a lot of people ask for stuff on the Reddit, the Discord, or on YouTube and don't even really know what they are asking for, or they try way too hard to be different from everybody else. It's perfectly fine to ask for things that can be different and bring about good change from game to game, so that's not what I'm saying. But when it completely removes the whole point of the game in general, then what is the point? If you want Beam physics, then play Beam. I mean, I don't really understand what is so hard about that, right? It's different when people in the community ask for things like a style change or a theme change because the core of the game can still be created with that. For example, a lot of people are asking for a cyberpunk themed Need for Speed, which I personally have my own thoughts about, but we will save that for another video. Anyway, that change would still allow Need for Speed to be Need for Speed. You could still drive super reckless, still get chased by cops and get takedowns, still participate in illegal activities, all the things that people want when they buy this game. And then you have to think about it, right? What if they bring back a hot pursuit mode for the next game? Hot pursuit mode was already pretty unfair in Unbound, and that was with cars that could actually take damage. Imagine what it would be like if your car just died on impact. It wouldn't be fun for either the cops or the racers because both cars would be unusable after the crash. In the games we have now, like Heat and Unbound, you get punished for making small mistakes, whether that be with traffic, road barriers, or any obstacles that you manage to hit. Having the detail of Beam would definitely slow down the gameplay and punish players for making extremely small mistakes. That's not what we want in an arcade racer, bro. You turned wrong on a turn, oh, brushed against a guardrail, well, your entire passenger side door is missing along with a tire and a rim. Don't even think about adding jumps, ramps, or any sort of stunts, because if your car even remotely makes contact with the ground, it's done for and your race is over. On top of this, from what I have seen, people cannot stand crash cams in Unbound. So imagine what Beam would bring. Every time you have to restart or respawn, it lowers the hype you had for a race 100%. You're doing good and then you're racing and you're flowing, and then boom, your car hits traffic and now you're in a crash cam, and the spark that you had and the flow state you were in when you were racing is now erased. I'm willing to extend an arm of grace and say maybe the guy meant that the car's damage can look like Beam but still perform like regular. But even with that, the game is Need for Speed, not Wreckfest. And it wouldn't even look right for a car to be completely dismantled and still be going 200 miles per hour down the highway. I mean, Forza doesn't even do that with their damage to their cars. And what I mean by that is in Horizon, You can damage a car, but it will never completely fall apart on the level that Beam does it. The bodywork does get scratched and it will become dented, but the car is fine. Besides that, unless you turn on the option to have damage affect the car's performance. So yes, they have something like that, but remember, Forza is also not an arcade racer either. The solution to all this is a hybrid damage system that has a lot of visual damage like cracked windshields and dents to the body, but doesn't affect the car's performance too harshly or at all, to be honest, because remember, this is Need for Speed. Things like crashes and bumping are going to happen. It's a part of the game. Maybe this person felt that the damage in Unbound wasn't enough, and I mean, that's fair, I can see that, especially if you're used to stuff like Hot Pursuit, where the damage was higher and a bit more visible. So what is a hybrid damage system? Well, I'm glad you asked. It is a system that visually communicates the chaos and intensity of crashes without severely impacting playability. And when I asked ChatGPT if any Need for Speed titles had that, it said that Hot Pursuit and Most Wanted implemented such systems effectively. So it can be done. These games feature dented bumpers, cracked windshields, missing body panels, and even occasional performance drops during heavy collisions, but always within a controlled range that preserves gameplay flow. This kind of damage gives players a sense of impact and consequence while maintaining the fast, fluid experience expected of an arcade racer. It strikes a balance, and that's what we want, right? Not this push for realism in a game that's not even built for it. There have been people pushing for more tuning, more damage, more this and more that, but it's always fun in games until those are the sort of things holding you back from truly enjoying the game. Of course, it's going to be fun for the first month or two because everything is fresh and new, but give it some time and you're going to wish that these things were back to the arcade way and back to being easy. All it takes is for your friends to be on the game and invite you, but you can't join in on the races because you have to tune a car for 15 minutes, or better yet, look up the tune on YouTube because it's too advanced now. I mean, people already do that for Unbound and Heat, and that tuning is very basic, so imagine what it would be like for all this realism that y'all are asking for. Plus, we haven't even talked about what Need for Speed fails at a lot, and that is the time requirements that it needs to actually make a game good. If you think that EA would not cut corners trying to implement something like this in Need for Speed to push it out as quickly as possible, then you are in straight denial. Beam, from what I see in the research I have done, requires a huge amount of computing power and time to make things as realistic as possible, and I am not convinced that the dev team is willing to do that extra work, or EA is willing to give that extra money and time to give them the time to do that work. This is why we can implement a better hybrid system that can give people what they want, but not have the game bugging out because the crash wasn't designed and coded correctly. It can also give coded damage to cars instead of being new every single time when a car crashes into something. Some of y'all may say you want that, but the time required to do that may have you. Sure, you can have completed crashes and realistic body damage, but now half the game is missing on release and the story is half baked yet again because the dev team didn't have any time and EA didn't give them any. But the one thing we haven't talked about is the contracts that these companies are going to have to agree to that would include these cars getting absolutely destroyed. Car companies like Ferrari are already real picky about every single thing, so adding something like this may make them drop out completely, unless EA drops a huge bag of money, which we all know is not gonna happen because it's Need for Speed. These cars get eviscerated in Beam, and imagine showing that to a car company when trying to convince them to give you a license to their cars for a game. Not to mention the body kits, companies would most likely prefer to not have their work be shown as trash and folded into the side of a concrete barrier. I hope I made a little bit of sense in today's video, and if you made it to the end, make sure to go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comments as well what you guys think and if this would ruin the series or help the series. Ultimately, realism should serve the gameplay and make it better, not overwhelm it. Beam's crash physics are brilliant for simulation and experimenting with cars, but for something as arcadey as Need for Speed is, they're way too much and so over the top it would just ruin everything the franchise stands for.